brings us to our program. Our guest tonight comes to us from Prairie Nursery in Westwood, Wisconsin. Many of you are probably familiar with that. If you're not, it's a wonderful place to visit. If you're doing any planting, it's another place, a great place to visit just if you want to learn about the variety and prairie plants and different seed types and things you can do on your own property. It's not far from here. Diboll is I guess he's an ecologist, landscape designer, frequent guest on Larry Mueller's program on Wisconsin Public Radio. You may have heard him. He got his degree originally back in, a while back, 78, not too bad, from the University of Wisconsin. University of Wisconsin. He's worked in different roles around the country for the, I'm surprised to see, for the U.S. Forest Service, the U.S. Park Service, a number of different states. In 1982, he started working with Prairie Nursery, and he helps folks design and plant native plants. Very much emphasis on coming up with pure seed strains of native plants which are beneficial to our birds and our pollinators. And I always tell people at work, if you like to eat, you should be concerned about pollinators. I know if you go down to Prairie Nursery, if you're interested in different habitats, one of the things they will do is put together seed mixes for you to take some of that out. And if you have large areas, small areas, they'll work with you. I'm very pleased to meet him for the first time myself. I've been to Prairie Nursery. It's a wonderful place. And I present to you Diboll.
Thank you. And thank you for skipping the debates tonight. I know that was possibly a really hard thing for you to do. A never-ending source of, shall we say, entertainment. But tonight, thank you. I hope I don't disappoint. I won't start saying idiotic, stupid things, I hope. As was pointed out here, really, why would you want to plant native plants? And that was a question that people asked me 35 years ago when I went into this business. And people just didn't get it. So there's something about a new product cycle, if you're all familiar with the economic concept of new products and development of new ideas in the marketplace. Well, there's a little problem when you're 10 years ahead of the market and you literally cannot give your products away because they were all weeds. In 1982, every single plant that I grew was a weed. Every single one. So convincing people to plant weeds where their lawn used to be didn't sell very well. So I lived in a trailer for 6 years, which was also my office. And I swore I would never live in a trailer, but I lived in a trailer. Because that was the only option I had. And basically ate a lot of bean burritos and a lot of potatoes. And hey, living the dream, you know. But slowly but surely, things started to change. And it's so heartening now, almost 35 years later, to see this tremendous interest in plants and their connection with the environment. And really what has precipitated this is the pollinator crisis and the monarch crisis. And when you look at this, it's not just about the plants. What we're talking about here, what we've been talking about for 35 years and more, is the whole concept of sustainable plant communities and ecosystems. And that was always thought to be something that belonged in the park or in a forest, forest service or something like that. Well, I don't have a place like that in my yard. I can't do that. You need a large expanse where the buffalo roam. Not everybody's going to have buffalo in their prairie. They have plants to do, but they're the exception. And so what has happened here is people have come to the conclusion, the understanding that they can integrate these wonderful native plants into their existing landscapes. It's not an all or nothing proposition. You can still have some lawn. You can still have your hostas. Not anti-hosta. You come to my house, you'll see hostas. They're non-invasive. I went through a hosta phase 20 years ago. It's over. So I'm not one of these plant Nazis that thinks that we should send all the apple trees back to Kazakhstan. No, there's a place for non-invasive, non-native. But what people are realizing here is the connection. It's the connection. I know you all being birders and ecologists in your own right understand that. But for the general population, this is a very new and revolutionary concept. But what really, really helped was all the weeds that I grew. Around the late 80s, early 90s, there was one plant that became accepted into the garden. It was elevated from wildflower to perennial, which then allowed you to invite it into your garden. It was okay. And that was the purple coneflower. Purple coneflower, what a wonderful plant. Not actually a true prairie plant. It's really a woodland edge plant. It's not really native to Wisconsin, native to southeastern Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, but it grows beautifully here. And so for us, one plant, people suddenly became interested in it, and that was like the entry-level plant for native flowers and grasses. Now grasses, that was a whole other thing, to get them from flowers to grasses. Whoa, holy cow. Well, they don't have flowers. Well, of course they do, but they're not, insect pollinated, sexy, hot pink and whatever flowers. So purple coneflower basically saved my business in the late 80s. So for me, purple coneflower is the Jackie Robinson of prairie plants. It broke the wheat barrier. And all the other plants followed it through the garden gate. So it's a huge deal. And now we're going beyond just the aesthetics. And this is the most important thing. And this is why I went into this. Way beyond the aesthetics, it's about the whole sustainability of a plant community and biodiversity. And that is the power and the strength of our native ecosystems. And I'm just talking about prairies tonight. But you have myriad shrubs, trees, ferns. Ferns are not really great for wildlife, but they have a place in the whole thing. So you have all these wonderful plants for different plant communities that together is 1 + 1 + 1 = 5 or 6 or 10, because you can create complementary habitat types on your property using native trees, and then some shrub belts, and then prairie and open sunny areas. And for you birders, you know that you need all these different elements for most species. Not all, but most people don't have 80 acres to have a grassland for 2 bobolinks and 1 dick thistle. So, the average homeowner with a ½ an acre lot can plant a few native trees, native shrubs in the semi-shade, and then prairie in the open areas, and you can have this, you can leverage all of these plant communities to create tremendous habitat. Because the prairie plants are unsurpassed at attracting insects and other invertebrates, which are, as you all know, the #1 food source of songbirds and many other birds. So no bugs, no birds. So all these years I'm trying to tell people that they have to have bugs come to their landscape. Well, we have those things, those bug zappers to kill them. We don't want bugs in our landscape. We kill them, we spray them, we zap them. That was a hard sell in and of itself. And then you get the pollinators, which includes wasps. Oh my God, we're going to have wasps. Well, if you knew that the vast majority of wasps are not predaceous stinging wasps, but they're actually parasitic wasps, and each one has its own host or set of hosts that keeps the whole balance of nature in control. Yes, you want wasps. And you want flies. You want the whole passel of things. So it's not just the birds, it's not just the butterflies, it's not just the hummingbirds and the pollinators, it's about the whole group. Now I was giving a lecture many years ago, and a lady in the audience said, well, if I plant a prairie, will I get snakes? I said, well, I hope so, which obviously was the wrong answer. But I knew my prairie was a success, not just by the flowers and the grasses and the diversity of the different vegetative aspects of it, but when I had a meadow jumping mouse, a Zappus hudsonianus. Cool name, cool mouse. How many people here have seen a meadow jumping mouse? Isn't that the most amazing thing? Jumping 5 feet high through your prairie. This little mouse, just the same size as a house mouse with a tail 3 times as long, like it steers itself. I don't know what it does. They're so cool. And they stay outside. They do not come in the house like musculus, the house mouse, which leaves his calling card in your flipboard drawer. The meadow jumping mouse stays outside. And then I really knew I had a successful prairie when I had a sealed it. And the hognose snake was probably eating my beloved metal jumping mouse. It's war out there, folks. It's brutal. So these are the sort of things now that people would never even consider as being beneficial on their property, in their yard. And now people are going, oh yeah, that'd be really cool. I mean, how can you not like a hognose snake? You know, like a cobra, you can pick them up and stick them in your buddy's face and they're it's the coolest thing in the world. Better than any video game. So this is really encouraging to me to see the growth and interest in planting native plants, not just for the plants themselves, but for the habitat and supporting pollinators. And this is a huge, huge deal. It is really, really taking off. And this, people said, when there was a little interest in prairies 30, 40 years ago, oh, it's a fad, it doesn't have any staying power. But that's not the case. It's been a slow, gradual climb, sustainable. Not one of these kind of flash in the pan things, but a slow, gradual climb. And the best advertising is the people that do this in their yard and their neighbors see it and go, wow, that's really cool. And you don't see Joe out there mowing the grass every freaking 10 days. He's watching the Packer games, freaking beer, eh? Anyway, so I came here to see flowers. And we're going to focus on the flowers because it's pollinators. Grasses, of course, are wind pollinated, so they don't have the showy flowers that produce pollen and nectar. So although the grasses are a very important part of the prairie community, after all, a prairie is a grassland, and the grasses help to keep out the weeds by virtue of their dense fibrous root system, so they are an integral part of that community. But the flowers are what really will provide you with the habitat. So we're going to take a tour of all-American landscape, which you can see here. Let me get my hands squared away. I got too many things here. In this case, you can see the very careful coordination, color coordination between the elements of the landscape, the liberal use of ornamentals, and of course the ubiquitous mowed lawn. So, does that work? Where do I point this thing? I point it up here? I want to go. It was on. Yeah, it's on. It says it's on. Is there a receptor somewhere? I didn't do it. Let me see if we'll go back. Oh, it's not working.
I can turn it.
Okay, I'll just sit there and go, ding! Remember Grace Mode? Ding!
I'm happy to do that.
Moving right along, right? Get rid of this thing then.
Okay, so you want the next one?
Yes, please. Okay, and when you're designing your landscape, make sure that you use non-linear design. And plan for the future when you put those trees in. Interestingly, this house is gone. The trees are still there, and they rebuilt another house behind the barn, 100 yards away. Now, can you imagine? I mean, it's like Hansel and Gretel on the deep cut tour. Looks like this. And always make sure to include flowers in your landscape. We are in control. Do not attempt to leave the designated flower zone. And of course, they're annuals, those are petunias. And what is it with the lawn? We don't really have time to talk about this thing. The socioeconomic lawn reality. But let's just say that there's an unspoken pact among middle class, upper middle class people that you have a lawn because it makes sure that you are adhering to the unspoken rules of the herd. Because where does the lawn come from? It comes from English manor homes. And of course, we've looked at England and Europe as our models, being mostly, historically, from England and Europe. And with the rise of the American middle class in post-Civil War Industrial Revolution, people moved out of the city into suburbs and purchased multi-acre lots. And to have a lawn showed that you had enough money to have a completely and utterly wasteful landscape. And so, not to have a lawn is a denigration of your social class. You would be a traitor to your class by not maintaining a lawn. So it's not what you're growing. It has nothing to do with it. It has to do with the fact that you are not adhering to the unspoken social economic caste system that requires you to be a part of the lawn herd. So, woe unto you who buck that system. You will be vilified, and you will be in big trouble with your neighbors. Moving right along, please, next slide. And don't forget the lawn ornaments. I live about 5 miles from a town called Friesland, which, as you may know, is a town in Holland, and there are a lot of Hollanders there, and of course you want to show your pride in your heritage. Next slide. Now, it doesn't have to be this way. And here is a classic opportunity to integrate a native prairie into your lawn. Like I said, it's not all or nothing. You can convert parts of your lawn. And what this customer here did is every year they put in a new bed. And they took a little more of their lawn out each year. But the lawn actually gives the beds context. And to the human eye, actually makes it more visually appealing than just a mass of flowers and grasses. So you can use the lawn to your advantage to create little walking trails that allow you to enter into your prairie to get up close and personal with your bugs and snakes and mice, and mostly your flowers, but all the above. So this is a classic example of how you can kind of compromise between a more traditional landscape and the prairie landscape. And the average passerby will say, oh, look at the beautiful flower beds. Not the weedy, ugly prairie meadow. And people just can't get their arms around an expanse of wild prairie. It just doesn't, it's not in the mind, of the way the mind works. Next slide, please. Here's another view of the same situation. A little out of that wonderful purple coneflower. And we got some sweet black-eyed Susan. We've got some hardy verbening. Got some, I think that's purple prairie clover hiding in there. So you can use a lot of different plants. We'll go into some more specifics of plants as we go along here. And here's another view where we got blazing star, yellow coneflower, bergamot. These are some very, very reliable plants. This is pale purple coneflower back here, which blooms in June. And then now you're getting into July, and the purple coneflowers are starting to open. So if you combine pale purple coneflower, which is great for dry sandy soil. Hey, how many people here have dry sandy soil? How many people here, I should ask, don't have dry sandy soil? Okay, we have 1, 2 people without dry sandy soil. So we can focus on dry sandy soil. But these are some of the best plants for dealing with our difficult soils. And there is a plant for every soil condition. Dry, sand, heavy clay, wet soil. There is a prairie plant for just about every situation until you get into standing water. Next slide, please. Here's an urban lot in suburban Madison. As Tommy Thompson once said, 74 square miles surrounded by reality. But thank God for that. This client, this is his front yard. It's all grass, but this is his side yard. And he planted it, and it's not even 1,000 square feet. And he planted it to a prairie mix. And this is what it looked like 3 years after he seeded it. You got black-eyed Susans, bergamot, yellow coneflower, some of the regulars, a number of other species that bloomed earlier, and some that are going to bloom later. Was his goal to reduce his maintenance? No. Was his goal to get chemicals, pesticides, and fertilizers out of his landscape? No. Was his goal to have lots of pretty flowers? Yeah. But what was his primary goal? No, this is before the pollinator thing. This is a while ago. Okay. Yeah. Well, actually, yes, pollinators. You're absolutely right. But why did he want pollinators? What was he landscaping for?
Birds.
Birds. Yes. Have you been working with birds for the last 5 years? You're awfully young to be retiring, don't you think? I think you need to sign up for another 5 years. Because the prairie plants attracted all these insects and other invertebrates, and it's a feast for the birds. And he has all these big, beautiful bur oaks, which you can't see. There's one. In his backyard, he has these big, beautiful bur oaks. So he's got the trees, he's got the nesting area for a lot of songbirds. Behind his house is a marsh and a wetland, but he didn't have the prairie. So he put this little bit of prairie in, and it's just loaded with birds. Next slide, please. Here's a utilitarian use of prairie plants. This is a sandy soil. This is actually in Market County, not far from our nursery. This is a customer who just put in a new septic system. And rather than pay lots of money for expensive black dirt, he uses our septic mix and put it over their septic field. And it got lupine, and what butterfly comes to the lupine? Carter blue. He's got Carter blues. He's got coreopsis going on here. This is what it looks like in mid-June. And the whole sequence of bloom continues through the year. He did this 20 years ago, and every spring he calls me and says, oh my God, you should see my lupine. So it's worked very, very well. And that's the other thing about a prairie. A properly designed and properly installed prairie and managed prairie will outlive the person who plants it. Because it's not an individual plant. It's not about the individuals, it's about the community. What a concept for American politics today, a community. Oh my God. No, it's not all about me. How stupid. So it's truly revolutionary. It's truly revolutionary that we're talking about communities of various individuals that work together to form the prairie. This is another situation where we had dry sandy soil on a hill. The client would have had to, this was actually a small part of a 1/3 acre prairie. This is outside of Madison. And the client would have had to pay more money just for the topsoil than it cost them for the seed and the installation of the prairie. And look what they got. Instead of a stupid lawn, they got beautiful pale coneflowers, butterfly weeds, and for your dry sandy soils, these are two of your go-to killer plants. Pale purple coneflower and butterfly weed. And a number of others which we'll see today as well. Next, please. In that same area, not far, is another yard where this individual planted 1.5 acres of his front yard of dry sand. Again, you got the same, this is the same time of year. These pictures actually were taken the same day. Now, what is that house constructed of? It's a frame house. How does this person manage that prairie? What's the best way to manage a prairie in almost every case? Burn it. When in doubt, burn it. A prairie is a fire-adapted ecosystem. It keeps trees and shrubs from invading it, and by timing your burning accordingly, you can prevent the invasion of many cool season weeds. So fire also happens to be the #1 most fun way to manage any landscape I know of. Just make sure that what you cannot see here is a 40-foot strip of mowed lawn between the house and the prairie. And if you have vinyl siding, make that 60 feet. And I learned that the hard way. We just put brand new vinyl siding on our office many years ago. I was burning a little blue stem prairie in front, and that fire was 60 feet away, and a wind changed. I'm standing in front of the building, and it was warm, but it wasn't like blistering hot. And the vinyl siding started to melt behind me. I think that stuff melts at like 100 degrees. So very important when you're designing that landscape, if you're going to burn it, make sure it is sufficiently distant from flammable structures. So what do we use for fire breaks? In this case, 40 feet of lawn. Over here is the driveway. Over here is the neighbor's driveway. And here's the road. Bingo. These fire breaks are built into the prairie. Because there's nothing worse than having to go out and mow fire breaks before you burn. Like, this is crazy. But if you do have to mow fire breaks, you mow them in the fall, not in the spring. Because in the fall, you mow down all the dead flammable material, it lays on the ground, it turns to mush, and then it becomes non-flammable. The new grass grows up in the spring, forming a fire break. You go out and mow that just before you burn, all that dry stuff is laying on top of the soil, and guess what happens when the fire gets to it? Oh, I just lost my fire. Now, I used to work for the Forest Service, as you know, out in Colorado, and when we did controlled burns, we always made sure that the controlled burn unit was 10 times larger than what we burned. That way, if the fire got away, the fire never left the controlled burn unit. Definitely burned what we didn't want it to burn, but the fire never left the controlled burn unit. You don't want to do that in your house. Because if the controlled burn unit leaving that is your neighbor's yard, that can be a little bit problematic. So you design in the fire breaks if you're going to burn. If you cannot burn, and I'm so sorry if you can't, but every once in a while, in an urban situation, you may not be able to, you can substitute strategic mowing. And you would mow at the same time that you would burn. And usually in central Wisconsin, that would be usually the last week in April to the first week in May. It's usually between April 15th and May 10th. And the best time to burn, usually for controlling cool season weeds, is to burn when the buds of the sugar maple tree are just breaking open. Not the red maple, not the silver maple, not the Norway maple, the sugar maple, Acer saccharum. However, if you have a dry prairie with lots of blue pine, that will bloom earlier, so you're going to be burning probably the second or week of April before the lupine really start to come up. So the burning time depends upon the species in your prairie and the weeds that you are trying to control. So there is a little variation there as far as what time you would burn or mow. And if you're going to substitute mowing for burning, you will find that it is 50 to 75% as effective as burning, and you mow everything down to the ground level. Now in a dense prairie, that's a lot of work, which is why you gotta burn it. Burning, easy, simple, bag, burn, prairie, ooh. And there is a burning gene, did you know that? It used to believe it was was once believed it was only on the Y chromosome, but I know a lot of really good female farmers. So it's on the X chromosome too. But it goes way back. It goes way back. And why was that? Why? And you know, people have been burning North America for thousands of years. And people, I was at a lecture once, someone said, well, what were the landscapes like before people were here? Like, there weren't people here, you know? I mean, they're talking like, 300 years ago when Columbus got here. These landscapes have been burned for eons. And why? Why? Because where do you get the large macrofauna that make for good eating? Bison, elk, the big guys. They're not hanging out in the woods. They're in the prairie. Because that's where the grass is. And these are ungulates, these are grazers. Okay? And that's where you get efficient hunting. You want 2,000 pounds of bison, or you want a little squirrel? Honey, I brought home the bison. I got the squirrel. So, burning the prairie was an economic land management tool pursued by Native Americans to basically burn down the forest to create better habitat for grazers for hunting. And that's why prairies stretched all the way across Indiana, into Ohio, parts of Pennsylvania, Connecticut, New Jersey. I've seen there's a prairie on Long Island. Bubblet Dolling on Long Island. Can you believe that? Wait. I said, let's so long to see that. It's called Hempstead Meadows. You see it sometime. It's kind of these little work that Issue Conservancy got a hold of it just in time. Because when I was there 25 years ago, it was in rough shape. But they got it under control. There used to be thousands of acres of prairie on western Long Island called Hempstead Plain. And they converted it. The Dutch used to have horse races there in the 17th century. Then it was converted to truck farms to feed New York City. And there's just this little 25-acre parcel, but they're trying to expand it. So the prairie went all the way to the East Coast because Native people burned it. So, burn your prairie. Next slide, please. How about a small garden? Every prairie you've seen so far was done, well, except for the first one where we had the lawn conversion with the trails. That was done using transplants. Everything you've seen just recently was from seeds. This is a small transplant garden in front of a house. And they burn this, but they have a hose. This is wood, but they get a hose and you can play the hose onto the wood and burn it within 3 feet of the house, as long as you're constantly putting water on the wood. Don't turn off the water. Next slide, please. So we're going to look at some plants now, okay? And we really want to focus on dry plants, right? Unfortunately, I do not have these listed by dry, but we have a number of great species. And let me ask you this. What is most important for you tonight? I can go in many different directions. You've seen some examples of smaller gardens and small meadow landscapes for urban and suburban situations. Do you want to see the individual plants, or do you want to talk about how the heck do I do this? And I'm going to open this up, and you can ask me questions, and I will answer your questions. So it's really up to what you all want. I'm here for you. So, and I have a lot of pictures here, and it is 7:45. How long? We're supposed to be out of here, what, 10:30, I think?
As long as the debate's on, you can stay and talk, so nobody has to look at it.
I just want to make sure that I provide you with what will be most beneficial for you. So we can look at pretty pictures and talk about plants.
A little bit of both.
A little bit of both. Okay, well, we got a whole bunch of pictures here. So, fortunately, or unfortunately, this group of plants is primarily for butterflies, and the next group of plants is for hummingbirds, and then the third group of plants is for attracting bees and parasitic wasps. Okay, so.
Go.
Is that okay? Okay, I can talk really fast. You used to work at FedEx, so I can get through this. You won't believe how fast I can do this.
Neil has a sheet here, and we'll put a copy of this in the newsletter coming up.
And did everybody?
Next month. And so you'll be able to actually have a copy of this.
And I brought.
Watch your newsletter. Or if you don't get the newsletter, you can look at our website, and we have it on our website. So we'll have that available.
I've got some catalogs. Have we run out of catalogs?
No.
Okay, good. There are catalogs back there too. So unfortunately, they're not on the same page order as this because this is alphabetical by Latin, which of course everybody uses that way, right? So I took 4 years of Latin in high school. I'm not even Catholic, so that's really fun. This is lead plant. You want to to use Latin names too, or should we just stick with common names? Okay. Yeah, I can't tell you all these. All I know is Turgis migratorius. That's about as far as I can go. And there's a couple of them that have the same name for the genus and the species, but other than that. Okay, moving right along. This is lead plant. This is actually a shrub. It's extremely drought resistant. If you have really dry sandy soil, full sun to partial shade, lead plant is amazing. It is a woody shrub. It gets about 2 to 3 feet tall, depending upon its growing conditions, and has these really beautiful flowers. We can go to the next slide, and you can see that. Look at that, isn't that nice? Kind of indigo blue with this, the yellow stamens. And it's called lead plant, supposedly. Some people say because the foliage, especially the underside, and the seeds look like lead. But what was the main industry in Wisconsin from 1820 to 1850? Lead mining in southwestern Wisconsin. And apocryphally, it was believed that where lead plant grew, there was lead in the ground. There was lead in them marbles. I want gold. I want lead. So that supposedly is one of the sources of his name. Next slide. This is Canada anemone. This grows in moist soils with lots of rich organic matter and a high water table. Be careful, this plant creeps by runners aggressively, makes a great ground cover if that's all you want to have. As one of my clients who planted in his garden came to call it, Canada enemy. So it's a beautiful plant, wonderful foliage, with these beautiful flowers. We can see the next slide. And guess who comes to it? The Baltimore checker spot butterfly. Okay. So this is just a great all-around beautiful flower, but it does not play well with others. Look on that report card. Not good. Next slide, please. This is red milkweed, Asclepias incarnata. We're not talking about it. This is one of the prime food sources for the monarch caterpillar butterfly. All members of the genus Asclepias, that's why I use a lot of names, all the milkweeds are utilized by monarch caterpillars. But the red milkweed is far and away one of their very favorites. Common milkweed, which is common, butterfly weed, which has that beautiful orange flower, which we'll see shortly, are excellent. But this is the best. It really likes kind of a richer, damper soil, but if you have good garden soil, it will grow beautifully for you in a garden situation. Next slide. Here's a close-up of the flower. Red milkweed, March milkweed, swamp milkweed. Okay. This is one that they haven't changed the name 5 times in the last year. Asclepias incarnata. Next slide. And here you see it in fruit. And people think just the flowers, but you know what? I spent 35 years collecting seeds. When I first started out, I drove around the roads in Waushara and Marquette and Adams County. Dum, 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 dum. I hear banjos, run. Collecting seed off the side of the road in order to get enough stock. First of all, to sell it, to stay alive, so I could afford my next bean burrito, and to build up enough stock so that we could start our own seed fields. So one becomes very intimate with the seeds. And they have their own beauty. Is that cool? It's not available in any store. Next slide, please. And you have also the Asclepias, Prairie Asclepias. And this is very similar to the common milkweed, but you have more of a pink midrib and a little bit larger flower. So this is a little better behaved. If anybody here has grown common milkweed, you know, it creeps like crazy by runners, which is why it's considered a weed by most farmers. This prairie milkweed is a little less creepy. It doesn't stay put, but it doesn't go crazy and wild like the common milkweed. Next slide. You can see a close-up of the flower. And interestingly, in here are where the pollen is, and insects land there. And they have these little a structure called pollinia, and there's like a little platform with holes in it. And insect legs will go in there. You know, insect legs, they have little barbs on them. Well, sometimes when they take off, the barbs don't come out. So they'll lose a leg. And you can actually look in milkweed flowers and see these little insect legs. Which is why they give them 6 of those suckers. Next, please. Okay, and of course, the wonderful butterfly weed. Can't get enough butterfly weed. This is a long-lived perennial. It loves dry, sandy soil, hates good soil. So if you have soil envy, if you're friends with loam and silt loam, and you wish you had garden soil like that, you can go, yeah, I can grow butterfly weed and you can't. Because I've got dry, sandy soil, which is really the only place this grows. Although Prairie Nursery has a strain called butterfly weed for clay, which actually does grow in well-drained clay. Next slide, please. We can use our butterfly bee pictures forever. Beautiful orange flower. The thing about the prairie is there's not a lot of orange and there's not a lot of red. So this is your opportunity to really liven things up. There's a lot of whites, especially in the spring. White is the dominant color, lots of blues, lavenders and purples in the summer. And then in the fall, you move into the yellows, the goldenrods, and many of the compass plants, rudbeckias, etc. later in the season. Next slide. And here we have the coral hair streak. Do you think there was some co-evolution going on here? Maybe? Is that beautiful? Oh my God. Yeah, and this is the butterflies. It's called butterfly weed for a reason. The marketing people have changed that to butterfly plant. I don't care. I grow weeds. I'm proud. I grew weeds before it was cool. And you got the great spangled fritillary. Look, it is a war out there. Look, some bird bit us. How can you like birds when they eat butterflies? I want to ask you people about that. Huh? What's all this circle of life nonsense? That is bad. But so many different butterflies that come from the butterfly business. And of course, your monarch caterpillar on the butterfly weed leaf. One of the many host plants in the genus Asclepias, the monarch weed. Yeah. And the asters. Okay, now you're aware of the aster disaster, right? Almost all of our asters have been deported by those far wiser than the great unwashed masses, such as ourselves. They have been deported to the genus Eurybia, Oligoneuron, and Symphyotrichum. There are almost no asters left. So hence the aster disaster. But I have no strongly held feelings about this. This is sky blue aster, formerly known as Aster azureus. Now it's Symphyotrichum ulantangiensis. Can you spell that? There will be a quiz. You can't get your little treats until you can spell it. Symphyotrichum ulantangiensis. These people are fanatics. They're like religious fundamentalists. They are like into their pledge. They're like, you know what? I just believe in God. Okay? Do you have to make it impossible? Next slide, please. And wow, we will go from this beautiful flower to this awesome seed. Isn't that cool? I mean, to me, this is like as nice as the flower. And the cousin to the sky blue aster is the smooth aster. Very similar in flowers, a little taller, a little leggier, but longer lived. Both of these will grow beautifully on dry sandy soils. They love it. And here we see when a particularly floriferous smooth aster can really put on a tremendous show. Both of these really are really great. Now, these are, when you think of prairie plants, you usually think of long-lived plants. Every plant has a different lifespan. The asters generally are a little bit shorter than average. They usually are 5 years, maybe if you get 7, 8 years out of an individual aster plant, some will go to 10. For a prairie plant, that's pretty short-lived. When you look at a compass plant, as far as we know, can live a century. We don't really know. Nobody really knows. Nobody's been around long enough to track it. Yeah, everybody dies before they can quit counting how many years old the plant is. Compass plants can outlive them. But the asters are relatively short-lived at 5 to 10 years. And New England aster, everybody knows New England aster. So, what a great plant, great for butterflies. Really important because New England aster is still blooming right now. It's just finishing up. Okay? The weather hasn't hurt. But this plant will commonly bloom into late October, even into early November. And this is the last chance cafe for monarch butterflies heading south. So they're going to stock up on nectar on the New England aster. It's one of the last plants that they can get food as they head south of Mexico. Next, please. And here's the seed of the New England aster. Is that cool? Is that beautiful? It's like artwork. And it's all you got to do is put a plant in the ground. And you can go out and see this. You could go and spend hundreds of dollars on art. Of course, it is ephemeral, but it does come back every year. So you get to see this every year, just not at the same time. On demand. And the white turtlehead. This is a really cool, this is a wetland plant. If you go to a marsh, you will often see this at the transition point between the prairie into the marsh. It doesn't grow in standing water except after a big rain, but it's right at the edge of the wetland. It's in the wetland. It's right at the edge of the water. Now, what is important about this plant? Let's just see a close up here. The next slide, we'll see why it's called turtlehead, because its head looks kind of like a turtle. Remember that Baltimore checker spot we saw on Canada Anemone? Canada Anemone? Okay. This is the obligate host plant for the Baltimore checker spot butterfly. It only eats leaves of the genus Chelone. C-H-E-L-O-N-E. Now that is really kind of a bum career move to be dependent on one genus or species. Now, why does that happen? Why is there so much specialization among certain species? There are generalists who can eat lots of different things. A lot of butterflies eat a variety of different tree leaves. Some are very specific. Why do you have this butterfly that only can eat the leaves of the turtlehead? The cardinal blue only eats the leaves of our wild lupin. Why is that? Well, plants aren't stupid. They may not have brains, but they're not stupid. And what has happened over evolution, that assumes that you all believe in evolution.
Yes, this crowd does.
I'm guessing here I'm safe with that. Okay, it's just our little secret. We don't want anybody to know that we actually believe in science. I can't get elected if I believe in science. Moving right along. Plants have their own defenses against being eaten. They produce toxins and distasteful substances. And so only certain species have evolved to be able to deal with that. And so that is why in many cases you have specialization of only one or a few species able to eat a certain plant. Because that plant has developed an effective deterrent in the chemicals that it produces in its leaves. And it's very expensive, energy-wise, for an organism to develop defenses to all the different plants. It takes a tremendous amount of energy out of that critter to do that, so they have to specialize. So they only have to create so many different compounds to overcome, within their bodies, to overcome the toxic effects of the plant defense chemicals. Next slide. And the last wave, Coreopsis. You got dry sand, this puppy will grow in the sand dune. I'm serious. You got a problem with the sand? Call Coreopsis. 1-800-Coreopsis. We got your back. This is landscape Coreopsis. There are many different Coreopsi. Okay, actually I think that's fourth declension Latin, so it would be Coreopsis, but that's irrelevant. This is the landscape Coreopsis. It's a relatively short-lived plant, kind of like the asters, 5-7 years, but if you have open sand, it will self-sow rapaciously. So it's a wonderful plant. It's just this happy little yellow flower. We can see the next slide. We'll actually see that. Is this just the happiest little yellow flower you ever want to see? On a beautiful spring day, and it grows in unbelievably dry sand. Put it in clay, forget about it. You're done, buddy. It's over. Sand, go beautiful. Next slide, please. Purple prairie clover. Oh, was that good or bad? Good. That was good. Okay, you know, sometimes you can't always tell. Okay, moving right along. I love this plant. It is so beautiful. One gets this tall. It has this beautiful purple flower. But I'll tell you what, this is a tough plant to grow in the central sands. And why is that? I have no clue. It just doesn't work. But I have a theory. If you look at Curtis's, everybody know John T. Curtis, who wrote The Vegetation of Wisconsin? Oh man, if you're a plant nerd, this is like reading Playboy. This is like so good. Oh my God. And what was found, the purple prairie clover grows in dry prairies. It grows in dry mesic prairies, if you're familiar with the term mesic, meaning medium soil. And it'll kind of go into mesic soil a little bit, but it really reaches its highest frequency of occurrence in dry prairies, where it's really super dry and well drained. Then we have sand prairies, which are dry prairies, and then we have dry line prairies, which are predominant more along the Mississippi River. My front yard was a dry line prairie a million years ago until the buckthorn took over. I got there just in time to save a few of the remnants, and I've got purple prairie clover there, naturally occurring. Deer also tend to like it, so that's a problem. But it's difficult to grow on our central sands because most of our central sands tend to be low in calcium and magnesium, which are very important constituents of the dry line prairie on lime or dolomite. And so people have trouble growing this in what appears to be the perfect habitat, dry sand, but I think because of low calcium and magnesium, it just doesn't do well. And different plants have different requirements as far as their nutrition. So this is kind of a tricky one for us here in the central sands. Next slide. Can you see a close-up? The beautiful purple prairie clover. Oh, and the leaves. You go in and pull off the leaves and crush them and smell them. Most every plant has its own smell, its own fragrance. We say fragrance, not odor. Odor bad, fragrance good. So this has a lovely little fragrance, so you go and just pull these leaves off. And when you're collecting the seed also has this fragrance. And if you're collecting purple prairie clover, the seed heads are soft. But if you're collecting white prairie clover, the seed heads are hard and gnarly and it hurts your hands, you have to wear gloves. So you still want to wear gloves because you're stripping these by hand. See those stems? You do that for a couple hours, all of a sudden you got your fingers are all ripped up. So, but you probably don't care about collecting seeds, so just weird plant nerds. Pale purple coneflower, Echinacea pallida. This is your go-to dry sand plant. Fantastic on dry sand, sandy loam. It will grow on silt loam as well, but it's got to be well drained. This guy has a root 8-10 feet deep in a well-drained soil. Okay, purple coneflower. What happened in 2012 to your purple coneflowers? How'd they do? Mine got this tall. Now, I don't water my prairie. I torture my prairie. This is scientific study. I'm going to see which plants do what. And most of the plants in my prairie in 2012 during a horrible heat wave and drought never skipped a beat. Purple coneflower was not so happy. Pale purple coneflower with its deep root was just like, oh, this is fantastic. Purple coneflower has a shallow fibrous root system, does not go as deep, and when it gets dry, you shut them down. So I had these little bitty purple coneflower flowers like that, this tall. Even the deer didn't eat them. So. Next slide, please. Look at that beautiful plant. I just love the plant. Some people don't like it because it's droopy flowers. Like, whatever. Next slide, please. And great for pollinators. Bumblebees are our #1 pollinator in our nursery. And we used to pay this guy to bring hives of honeybees. We paid him. He didn't pay us anything. He took the honey. We paid him money. He got everything. We got nothing. So we're paying all this money to this guy. He didn't even give us a jar of honey. Please give me a jar of honey, dude. So we said, screw this. And we never saw any drop off in seed production because we had bumblebees and all these other pollinators. We didn't need no stinking honeybees. And, hey, what's this? Pale purple coneflower seed heads in the fall. What do you suppose those are? Those are bird feeder. That's our bird feeder. And here's something you don't think of when they talk about wildlife habitat. Food, water, cover, breeding habitat. Food, water, cover, breeding habitat. I got food, I don't have water, I don't have cover. But in the spring, these empty heads after the birds have pecked all the seeds out are still standing, and that is where those plumaged boys sing their songs to attract the girls. These are great, great singing perches. So when it's breeding time, you want to make sure you've got some pale purple coneflower stems out there for the boys. Next slide, please. And of course, the purple coneflower, we can talk about that forever. And that's the most fantastic flower and the most fantastic butterfly. This is Kodachrome 25. Remember Kodachrome 25? Yeah, baby. And then Velvia. Oh, Fujichrome, oh my God. And now digitally you can do all this great stuff, but they took away my Kodachrome. Next slide, please. And you got, of course, you got great speckled fritillary on this. Next slide, we won't belabor the point here, we'll just go through these pretty fast. And you red animal, right? So, yeah. So I'm not a super butterfly expert, I just know I get lots of butterflies and I love them. Next slide. And of course, look at that, huh? Oh, and all these wonderful swallowtails. And it's just a great all-around plant. This plant actually on your sand will do better if you put it on the east side of a house. And microclimate is really important in making sure you optimize where your plants are going to do best. Butterfly weed, pale purple coneflower, give them the hot sun. Give them the south-facing slope. Give them the south side of the building. Burn them up. They don't care. They got that deep root. I like it hot. In fact, butterfly weed did not do well this year because we got too much rain. And all the grass grew and took it over. Because the grass prospered under heavy rain situations. The butterfly weed does best when it's hotter and drier. Purple coneflower is really a woodland edge plant, so give it morning sun and afternoon shade, and you will be rewarded. Even in dry sand, and this is most important on dry sand. Okay, and you want to add a little bit of organic matter because this guy doesn't like it that dry. Put it on the east side of the house, and you will be well rewarded for that. Next slide. And, oh, the Joe Pye weed, Eupatorium. Now we're getting in the wet zone. This is one of my favorites, Eupatorium pistillosum. Oh, whoop, they changed the name to Eupatorium altissima. Oh, sorry, altissimum. This is tall Joe Pye weed. When we say tall, I mean as tall as the ceiling. I have these plants on the east side of a building, on sandy loam at my house, and they'll get up to the 10 feet tall. And these flowers are a foot wide. That's so cool. And the eupatoriums are one of the best genera for attracting butterflies. Next slide, please. And you can see here again, we have swallowtails on the tall Joe Pyeweed. This is not native to Wisconsin. I got these seeds from Northern Ohio from collecting on the grounds of the Holden Arboretum and brought them home and grew them. This is our native, and it grows fine here in Zone 4. This is our native Joe Pyeweed, Eupatorium maculatum, which only gets 6 feet tall instead of 10 feet tall. The flowers are not as big, not quite as showy, but very functional for butterflies, next slide, and many other pollinators. And bumblebees. I'll tell you what, back when I first started my nursery, it was pretty slim pickings, and I didn't have any money. I couldn't go to the movies. I could go to the bar and get a couple beers. That was a big night out. So I'd go down to the marsh. And there, on a cool fall, late summer, early fall nights, the bumblebees would get caught when the temperature dropped really fast. And they would roost on the Joe Pyeweed. They still do. And I would go down and pet the little bumblebees. I thought that was so cool. And they're half asleep. And they're like, go away, but they couldn't fly. And they're inherently docile, because if they sting you, they die. It's a very significant disincentive to sting. You get one shot, and you better use it well. So they're not going to bother. I mean, you can catch bumblebees in your hand, and they'll rattle around in your hand, unless you squish them. Then you're in trouble. Okay. Next slide, please. This is oxeye sunflower. Be careful with this plant. It likes to spread by seed. Some plants spread by seeds. Some plants spread by runners, like the Canada anemone, aka Canada enemy. This one spreads by seed, and it can be a little bit rapacious. I usually do not use this in a garden. I will use this in a meadow, very, very sparingly. Next slide. You can see the beautiful flower. Fantastic flower. Very closely related to the sunflower. It's a heliopsis rather than a helianthus. So they're very, very close. Now the helianthus, all of our native sunflowers creep by rhizomes. And they can form huge patches to the exclusion of other plants. Again, does not play well with others. The oxeye sunflower does not creep by rhizomes, but it spreads by seeds. So be very careful with heliopsis and helianthus. And the liatris. And if you look at the go-to plants for butterflies, you got the echinaceas, coneflowers, you've got the eupatoriums, the Joe Pyeweeds, you got the liatris. This is your go-to sand liatris, rough blazing star. It will grow in the sand dune. It is unbelievable. It needs next to nothing. Next slide. Here's a big patch of it, a group of it, planted in a garden for a really extra big display. Next slide, please. And here's a close-up of the flower. Most of your blazing stars are like a wand, a spike. And this one is unique in the fact that they are scattered along the stem. Isn't that intricate? It's just beautiful. Just beautiful. Next slide. And here we have Liatris ligula stylus, the meadow blazing star. Yes, cocaine for monarchs. You think these were just, I went out and caught them in a net and then put them in a jar with chloroform and then stuck them on there with pins, right? No, there was actually a fifth one right here that flew away before I snapped it shut. It has been shown that the meadow blazing star flowers produce the monarch pheromone. Isn't that amazing? And so the plants are just a magnet for the monarchs. And back in the day, 20 years ago, when we had huge populations of monarchs, we would have literally hundreds or thousands of monarchs on our fields at this point. Just clouds of it. Absolutely clouds. Next slide. Here, sometimes it's a little more, this actually is probably a hybrid. This plant is kind of slutty. It likes to hybridize, so the liatris are known for that. So this is actually probably a hybrid between the meadow blazing star and probably a prairie blazing star, which has more closely clustered flowers. Because when we try and keep them separated, but every once in a while you get a hybrid because they interbreed. Next. And the prairie blazing star, this is my first love of prairie plants. This is what got me into this business. A buddy of mine said, hey, let's go along this old railroad grade where there are a bunch of prairie plants south of Green Bay, where I used to live at the time. And we walked around along the railroad track, and here were these prairie blazing stars. I said, my God, that's the most beautiful flower I've ever seen. I want to grow that. And that's how I got into this crazy business. Next slide. Here's a close-up of the prairie blazing star. Here's our buddy, the bumblebee. And you can see it starts from the top and blooms down. Kind of unusual. Most plants start at the bottom and bloom up. Okay, so this is for more medium soils, slightly damp, richer, darker soils. If you have a silt loam or a little more high clay content, this would be a good plant for that. Okay, and here you see it planted with wild quinine, prairie blade star, and then a bunch of black-eyed Susan. I think there might be a butterfly weed hiding in there. And here's spiderwort. Had the spiderwort bloomed a few weeks before, but is that the nicest combination? There's all sorts of great color combinations, especially the whites and the purples of summer. Remember I said there's a lot of whites in the spring, whites, blues, and purples, in particularly June and July. Then the yellows really come on August, September. So there are all these wonderful color combinations you can put together with your different prairie plants in your garden. Like your spicata or marsh blazing star, very similar to the prairie blazing star. A little, it depends on, this is actually a little eastern. I took this picture in the prairie in Pennsylvania. There's not a lot of prairies in Pennsylvania, so I had to go check out every prairie I could find in Pennsylvania. And so these flowers of the eastern strain are not nearly as large as the ones in our Midwestern ones. Everything's better in the Midwest, everybody knows that. So. And so you've got a lot of butterfly utilization, but besides the butterflies, we have, next slide, the hummingbird moth. That's the coolest thing. This is a diurnal moth that comes out in the daytime rather than the evening. And it is the coolest thing. I'm sure all of you have probably seen these. But you plant these prairie plants, especially the one, it has a very long proboscis. And these liatres are very rich in nectar inside their filaries, deep in the flower. And the hummingbird moth is very much attracted to that. So if you're into hummingbird moths, this is not the only plant, but it's a really good one. And the lupine, Lupinus perennis, usually blue. There's a little pink variant that showed up in our nursery. And this, of course, is the host plant, the obligate host plant for the Carmen blue butterfly. And here's a field of it. And this is what it looks like in early June, usually. And next slide. Here's the leaf. That's this most beautiful little leaf. And then the seeds. Anybody know how the seeds of lupine are dispersed? They explode. So the seed pods turn from green to kind of a yellowish green, and then on a hot day in late June, early July, they turn black, and in the sun, the pods twist, and the seed goes, you hear them go, and the seeds go flying 10, 20, 30 feet. You ever see that sci-fi movie from the late 50s called The Day of the Triffids? These plants came in, landed on a meteorite, and there were seeds from this plant, and it started taking over the earth, like in 24 hours, completely took over the earth, and they produced toxic gas that killed people, and they had these seeds, they would mature in a matter of minutes, and the seeds would spread, and they exploded, and they looked just like lupine. So, nothing is original. That's like parasitic wasp. Okay? I had a customer who had terrible problems with tomato hornworm in his garden. We're going to see, when does that plant come up here? Ooh, that's when we get to we may not have time. How many people have grown rattlesnake master? Okay. Do you know how rattlesnake master is preferentially pollinated? What group of pollinators really are primary for its pollination? You'll never see a butterfly on it. Primarily by wasps. A few bees occasionally, but mostly wasps and some flies. And when you have a prairie garden, you'll be introduced to all these zillions of insects you never knew existed. And it's like, wow, what's that? What's that? What's that? Well, great. I'm going to have wasps in my garden. That's great. Okay. These are parasitic wasps, not predaceous wasps. They don't sting you. They go for other things. And there's a parasitic wasp for just about every insect, mite, tick, spider, every little thing. There's one that's going to take you out. So nobody gets out of control. Nobody gets out of control. Well, how many people here have battled tomato hornworms in their garden? Those big, ugly, fat, green, they're actually kind of cool. Okay. The butterfly, actually the moth is not that exciting. But it's got one heck of a larva. Well, they can do some pretty significant damage to your tomatoes and other related plants. And I had a client who had terrible problems with tomato hornworm in his garden. And then he planted 1,000 square feet mix, our smallest amount of prairie mix, on a medium soil, which had rattlesnake master. And once that rattlesnake master started blooming, his tomato hornworm problems disappeared. What happened? Well, there are a specific group of wasps that are parasitic on tomato hornworm, among others. Okay? And You know what an ovipositor is? That little needle-like thing that's from the posterior. She sticks that into the unsuspecting larva, the big green caterpillar of the tomato hornworm, and injects her eggs. The eggs then hatch and eat the larva from the inside out, and then come out of the larva. The larva is now dead, and out come these whatever, I can't remember the exact name of the wasp. Just like Alien. Where do you think they got that from? You think somebody in Hollywood figured that out? Someone said, yeah, there's some wasp that does this. Would that be a cool movie? Yeah, that's a great idea. Look how many millions of dollars they made on tomato hornworm wasps. So here's the lupine with its exploding seeds. It kind of got off track there, didn't it? So my parents came up to visit. This is the early days of the nursery, and I had this field of lupine, and it was July 4th weekend. And my parents come up for a nice leisurely weekend, and we're just gonna hang out. And I wake up on Sunday morning, and what do I hear? It's a bright Sunday morning. I hear, I'm like, oh no, the lupine crop. It's all gonna blow up today. It's gonna be 95 degrees. So I said, Mom, what are you doing today? Can you help me collect lupine seed? My poor mom. We went out there and collected lupine seed in that hot sun until the middle of the afternoon, and she has not let me forget it to this day. She helped me save the lupine crop in 1984. Next slide, please. Okay. And here's the Carter blue butterfly. Is that cool? Yay. And Wisconsin, central Wisconsin, is the stronghold for this butterfly. It was known in Ontario, western Michigan, a little bit in UP, and western New York, and those populations are in very serious decline. Populations in Wisconsin are very healthy. And I think a lot of that is because so many people have taken upon themselves to plant lupine for the Carter blue. A lot of people have specifically planted this, along with the other prairie flowers, because you don't just plant the lupine, you need the pollinator plants. You need the flowers that support the Carter blue, which are most of the flowers in a dry sand prairie. In one of our dry sand prairie mixes, you got the whole thing, and people are really helping to maintain the populations of this federally endangered butterfly. And of course, bergamot. Everybody knows bergamot, Bernarda fistulosa. Kind of a creepy, weedy thing, so be careful with this guy. Lovely plant, fantastic flower. Lots of butterflies come through it. Next slide. And here we go again with our good old great sparrow fritillary. Isn't that a beautiful flower? Mm-hmm. And the seed heads. I don't think I have a picture of the seed head, but look at it. Is that just the coolest thing? It's like geometry. It's like, who designed this thing? Anyway, look, next slide, please. There we go. That's what I wanted to show you. Is that cool or what? Next slide. Yellow coneflower. This is another go-to plant. Grows in almost any soil. Really great for clay soils, silt loam soils, sandy loam soils. You get it in a really dry sand, not so good. It'll be stunted and short. It'll probably grow, but it's not going to reach its full development. It likes a little bit richer soil. And you can see a mass planting. It's like 5 plants all together in front of this huge show. And here you got little baby coneflower. Here you got grandpa coneflower. Balding coneflower. All the life stages are represented. And your rudbeckias. This is regular old black-eyed Susan, a biennial. Okay, so you plant this. We put this in our seed mixes because it provides color in year 2. Most of the prairie plants, flowers and grasses, are perennial. And they don't just suddenly grow up and make flowers. It takes them 3 to 5 years, some up to 10 years to reach maturity and start blooming. Most of 3 to 5. Year 2, we've got black-eyed Susan, the biennial, thank God. Because the first year when you plant a prairie mix, it's just all weeds. And you're going, what have I done? This dude ripped me off, man. I know it. I knew it was a sham. I knew it. This is just hyped up nonsense. That's why we keep everything mowed to 6 inches in the first year so the weeds don't take over. Most of your prairie seedlings are only a few inches tall. And then I tell people it's going to take 3 to 5 years. In the second year, the black-eyed Susan come in and make this beautiful show. We're ahead of schedule. I'm a genius, man. Oh. So it's all a game of expectations. Very important part of our seed mixture. But unfortunately, the black-eyed Susan, which is beautiful and popular, as the perennial vegetation develops the prairie sod, there's no open soil for the biennials to continue to seed in and grow, and they will disappear after 7 to 8 years. 6, 7 years. And then people say, well, what happened to all my beautiful black-eyed Susans? Well, they're a victim of ecological succession. Oh, okay, next slide. And here, a beautiful flower. Isn't that great? Look at that, dude. Look at all the detail you can see on that dude. Isn't that cool? Just amazing. Next. And of course the butterflies. Everybody loves black-eyed Susan. Yeah. Oh my God, it's just endless. Here's another hair streak. Okay. All right. Who do we have next? Okay. Oh, now here's a great perennial. This is sweet black-eyed Susan, Rudbeckia subtomatosa. It's a long-lived perennial Rudbeckia. It gets about 5 feet tall. It lives for a long time, 10, 15, 20 years. It does require better soil. I like more of a silt loam, loamy soil. So it actually will tolerate some moisture, and will often be found growing not in wet soil, but not far back from streams and rivers. In kind of medium moist, but not sopping wet soil. Next slide. You can see a close-up of the sweet black-eyed Susan. Very similar to the regular black-eyed Susan. Next. And here's Rudbeckia triloba, brown-eyed Susan. This is also a biennial, but wow, does that thing put on a show? This is a one-man show of plethora of flowers. Absolutely incredible. So, I mean, unfortunately, you have to treat it like an annual and plant it every year in order to get the show, because it dies after it does its flower thing in the second year. It also will self-sow on open ground. And you've got dry sand. This thing, on rich soil, it'll get 5 feet tall. On really rotten sandy soil, it'll get like 6 inches tall. But it will always bloom. Next. Here's a close-up. Look at how deep, dark, and black that is against the yellow. Really, really tremendous, tremendous contrast. Very, very striking flower, especially when you get a plant growing en masse like that. Any good garden soil, you put it in there, you are going to have a huge show of flowers. The goldenrods. Much maligned goldenrods. Of course, everybody here knows goldenrods cause hay fever, right? Right? Huh? Oh. Yes, it's guilt by association, Your Honor. My client just happened to have the bad fortune of blooming at the same time as ragweed. You got the wrong man. Let him go. This is a very underutilized goldenrod. This is Ohio goldenrod. Rare in Wisconsin, only occurs in southeastern Wisconsin, but it grows fine in central Wisconsin. It is more like a wetland edge plant. I've grown this in dry sand very successfully. Like your asters, they usually live 5 to 10 years. Most of your goldenrods don't go more than 10 years. But wow, what a great plant. It has this huge, look at the beautiful foliage, nice strap-like leaves, huge flower. I mean, these flowers are like that big around. Next slide. Stiff goldenrod. This is a great plant for your dry sand. And Solidaria rigida, it does sometimes get a little out of control for seed. It does not creep by rhizomes. Many of your goldenrods do creep by rhizomes. In fact, some of our worst problems in our prairie meadows are native goldenrods, like Canada goldenrod, and in moisture soils, grassland goldenrods. These are very aggressive rhizomatous plants that like to form large clumps to the exclusion of most other plants. They are bad plants. I don't care if they're native. I can make you the most beautiful native garden that consists of poison ivy and prickly ash and ragweed. You're gonna love this garden. It's all native. You're gonna love it. Don't forget to go out and rub that poison ivy all over your arms after your arms are ripped by prickly ash, which is where I was yesterday, killing buckthorn in a county park up by Green Bay. So, yes, just because you're native doesn't mean you're good, and just because you're not native doesn't mean you're bad. There are some politicians that will tell you that, but don't believe them. Right along. Okay. Stiff goldenrod again. I don't have any strongly held feelings, and I didn't mention any names. So. Okay. Another stiff goldenrod, great monarch source for nectar as well. And my favorite is the showy goldenrod, aptly named showy goldenrod. This loves dry sand. In fact, in the drought of 2012, I was visiting a friend of mine's farm outside of Wild Rose, and this was July 4th weekend. Remember how hot it was July 4th weekend, 2012? That was the worst drought I've seen in my life. Worse than the drought of 88, worse than the drought of 76. By God, it was worse, almost as bad as the drought of 36. That drought of 36, that was a killer. We actually broke the average daily temperature maximum set in July of 1936. Broke it like 22 degrees Fahrenheit in 2012. That was an unbreakable record. We did not exceed the high temperature. Anybody know what the record high temperature for Wisconsin is? Set on July 13th, 1936. In Wisconsin Dells, 114. I've seen 108. Not 100%. So, in my friend's farm, all these plants were like turning brown. Prairie plants were hanging in there pretty well, most of them. This thing was just like glorious green and flowers, like, oh man, turn up the heat. I love this. And for the rest of the year, it was just going crazy. Like, it loved 100 degrees and no rain. So, you want tough? We got tough. And it's a beautiful plant. Look at the form on that. Absolutely gorgeous. It holds up very well throughout the season into the fall. Next slide, please. And here you can see the flower. Look at that. Huh? We've got wasps on here. Ooh. That's actually a predaceous stinging wasp. That's not one of our parasitic wasps. That's one of those bad guys. And you know what? As long as you don't bother them, they don't bother you. The only wasp that will bother you without you bothering them is the German yellow jacket. German yellow jacket. Can't trust them crops. Just so sting you, look at you. That's the one that gets on your soda can. Ever done that? I got that on a donut. Ooh. And they sting you inside your mouth. All the other wasps, predaceous wasps, they won't bother you if you don't bother them. Next slide, please. And here's the show going around and seeds. Is that cool? It's like a chia flower. A chia pet. Totally cool. Next slide. And vervains. This is blue vervain. This is our wetland. The wet prairie vervain grows kind of like in swampy areas. Marsh areas will grow in the sand beautifully. You'll see it commonly around here in dishes. Okay, it's a biennial. So you get one year it grows leaves and stem, and then the next year it blooms and it dies. And the seeds, I should have a picture of that. They look like those little things you put on cupcakes, those little sprinkles you put on cupcakes. I could put those on your cupcake and you would never know it until you started eating. Weird. Next slide, please. But for your dry sand, we've got a perennial. Hoary vervain, Verbena stricta. And this dude, look at that beautiful foliage, isn't it? It got these iridescent light blue flowers. This grows in my driveway, where my wife parks her car. She drives across it every day, once in and once out. It's this tall. I just drive over the car, drives back. And then little babies are on her, so she's going to drive over all the babies. They're like, who cares? You know? They're so unbelievably tough. Dry sand, love it. Give me good soil, forget about it. Can't grow in good soil, I need dry sand. Some plants just need those conditions. That's a blue, hoary vervain, great plant. Next slide. I think we have a close-up. Yeah, there's a close-up of the flower. Oh, look who's here. One of our waspy friends. What's that? They're everywhere. Be careful, they're everywhere. They're in your town. Ironweed. Or as my friend from Kentucky says, armweed. Y'all got that, our armweed? Yes, ma'am, we got armweed. So, this is actually the tall ironweed, Vernonia altissima, not native to Wisconsin, but grows fine here. It's beautiful, beautiful, mauvish, pinkish flower, great stems, really sturdy plant. It'll get 6, 7 feet tall. Very good for butterflies. Next slide. Here's a close-up of that flower. Like I said, there's not a lot of oranges, not a lot of reds. There's blues and purples. This is trending towards the red. So it likes a rich soil, not really good for dry sand. You really do need a richer soil for the ironweeds. Next slide. And here's our common ironweed, which is native to Wisconsin. This again grows in better soils, edges of wetlands, in any decent garden soil. But if you have a sandy soil that you've amended with compost and such, you can grow both these ironweeds, no problem. Next slide. And here we see monarchs and wide variety of other butterflies will utilize the ironweed. Okay, next slide. Oh, here we go. Is that cool? Here's the ironweed in seed. Looks like a big old brush. Like you can go brush something with it. I think it's just the coolest thing. Next slide. And the birdsfoot violet. Only grows on sand and gravel. Only on sand and gravel. Full sun to part shade. This is the coolest little plant. Forms these little tufts, little patches. Next slide. Here you can see a planting of a few next to each other. Next slide. And here's a close-up of the flower. Just a happy little plant. Only grows on really lousy soil like you have at your house. Next slide. And here is the coolest thing. Another exploding seed. This one was a dud. It didn't go off right. Because normally these things have been flung all over the place, but it's a case of arrested development, and something was wrong. So this is a genetic dead end. But man, thank God, because it's the only time I've ever seen what this pot looks like, where I can take a picture of it, because they're either just about to blow, or they're blown and these are empty. So here's a little birchwood violet seeds. Isn't that cool? Next slide, please. Okay. And finally, the golden Alexander, Zizia. This is in the celery family, carrot family, umbelliferae. And this is really more of a wetland plant, even a woodland plant. Next slide. But it is a host to, here's the close-up of the flower. Yeah, it's really pretty. It's a spring blower. You see this usually late May, early June. Next slide. And here's the leaves. Okay, and what eats the leaves? Yes, next slide. Small-tailed butterfly. So, very important again to have as many different plants in your garden so you can support as many critters as possible. Now let's look at some plants for hummingbirds. Okay, I know that's why you came tonight, was for the hummingbirds. Okay, columbine. Okay, or eastern columbine, Aquilegia canadensis. Okay, one of my favorite plants. My mother's family's from western Colorado, so I know the blue variety, Aquilegia caerula, which is very common in the Rocky Mountains. And when I was a kid, this is like, oh, I love this plant. Everybody loves that plant. It's the simple of Colorado, wonderful blue columbine. And the hummingbirds go crazy on it. Next slide. And here's the flower. Is that gorgeous? Okay, here's a quiz for tonight. What family is the columbine in? Oh, wait a minute. I ended the sentence in a preposition. In which family would be the columbine? That's the damn family. You heard about the freshman at Harvard who went up to the graduate student in Harvard Yard and said, "Excuse me, can you tell me where the library's at?" And the graduate student says, "They have all that do not end the sentence in the preposition." So the freshman thinks for a while, says, "Okay, can you tell me where the library's at, asshole?" Moving right along. This is how I got an A on my botany quiz in college, because we never covered columbine, but I knew that it was in the buttercup family. Because I was a plant nerd as a kid, and I read the book, and it said columbine's in the buttercup family. So here's our wonderful ruby-throated hummingbird saying, "Yeah, I love the columbine." Great plant. New Jersey tea. This is a shrub. It's this tall, this big around. Grows in dry sand, medium soils. Full sun to light shade. Anybody know how this plant is pollinated? I couldn't figure it out. Little flies. Little flies. So, why do the hummingbirds come to this? There's no red flowers, there's no tubes, very small tubes. They're not producing nectar for hummingbirds. Why do the hummingbirds flock to the New Jersey tea? They're eating the flies. You gotta get some protein. You don't think they're gonna live off of that sugar water you put out there, do you? That's not a balanced meal. You kids get over to the New Jersey tea and eat those flies and get some protein. Quit filling up on that damn hummingbird food. Get your protein, kids. So New Jersey tea. And why is it called New Jersey tea? Because see, this guy Tony was selling it to me, you know what I mean? So I had to name it after him. So that's what he's gonna, whack me or something, huh? There was a little event that occurred in Boston Harbor, I believe the year was 1773, and King George III had just raised the taxes on tea, and Americans cannot grow tea. They weren't Americans at the time, they were subjects of the king, and so they had a little altercation in Boston Harbor and threw his tea in the harbor. That was the old tea party, not the new one. Well, King George III said, well, I think we're just going to have to cut off your supply of tea. See how you like that, rebellious colonists. So the rebellious colonists figured out that there's a plant that grows in the pine barrens in sandy soils, not dissimilar from the central sand. A lot of the same plants are very close relatives. This very same plant grows in the pine barrens of southern New Jersey, and they learned how to make tea from it. I don't know if it's a reasonable substitute for the king's tea, but that's all they had. And that's what made them really angry, so that they started the revolution. It's like taking away our coffee. We're gonna invade Colombia. You can't do that to us. Okay. Moving around. Next slide, please. Here's a close-up of the flower. Nice foliage. Super drought resistant. It has this big taproot. Can go down, I don't know, 10 feet. We tried to do a plant rescue. The roots were 6 inches in diameter, 4 to 6 inches in diameter. We dug down 3 feet. It was unsuccessful. We took off, only a third of the root, and the plants didn't survive. But, these plants, I bet these plants live 100 years. I don't know. They're very slow growing. To get a plant that size takes decades and decades. Next slide. Oh, here's the seed of the New Jersey tea. It goes from green to red to black. That's the right one. And they're these little clusters. And they look really glossy. Isn't that cool? Just amazing. And a lot of game birds will eat the seed. It's a pretty big seed. Not really a songbird sized seed, but a lot of game birds like wild turkeys, etc. will utilize the seeds. Next slide. Delphinium exaltatum, the exalted one. Okay, this is, a delphinium. What do you call it? Larkspur. Okay, this is an eastern larkspur. Most of your larkspurs grow out west. This one actually I got to see from Ohio. This is a zone 5 plant. It was fine in zone 4. It's done very well for us. And hummingbirds will utilize this. It's not a red flower, but it does have nectar in the throat of the flower. This one. And farweed. Y'all got to get some farweed. As you can tell, this is somewhere in Wisconsin. There is maybe 1 or 2 places where that could be Wisconsin, but this is Colorado where this stuff is everywhere. And all the way up into Alaska, into